Good evening. Welcome to another conversation on SafeSpace. Okay, those are my alerts at YouTube and Facebook. They are streaming. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is welcome to SafeSpace. I just want to always reassure everyone SafeSpace is a conversational panel that is intended to be free of judgment, free of harassment, and free of emotional harm. We ask that you keep an open mind, be receptive to different perspectives, and be okay with having to be uncomfortable. This week's special guest is Vanessa Vasquez, my beautiful niece. She is such a tenacious, ambitious, and kind-hearted human. Oh, Nessa, I think you have feedback, so you probably need to turn down your microphone or mute it, I think. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Whatever you did that stopped the feedback. Okay. Good. Okay. And I'm so proud to have her as a guest on SafeSpace. So this week's edition, our conversation, I'm going to ask Vanessa, what is your favorite quote?
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Vanessa. I don't really have a favorite quote, not like one that I live by every day. I do live by The Secret, the book that I've read, and I just believe in that a lot. It's just, just mind. You put your mind to it, and thoughts become things.
What's The Secret?
It's just pretty much an inspirational book saying
so like manifestation.
Things. I'm sorry. Yeah, manifestation. Yes, it's pretty much that. Like you but I guess I do kind of have a quote that's related to that, because I do have that quote by Gandhi that I like, is be the change you want to see in the world. So I like that a lot. So I try to live by that. Not every day, not in my 20s and stuff, but now I do like the quote a lot, because I do want to be the change that I see. And we'll talk about that later in the healthcare, what I don't see a lot and what I want to see now in healthcare. But yeah, that might be my favorite quote. Be the change you want to see in the world.
It makes me think about the quote that I end SafeSpace on, and it says, "Take a moment and shine your light in the dark." And in these times, there's so much hate, anger, and we have to do our best to not to suck all that in. Like you say, when you manifest things, your thoughts do become things, and you don't want to manifest that anger and that negative energy. So I definitely, that's something to think about. And I do believe that, to continue to believe that. So the reason that I have my beautiful niece as a guest this week is to talk about her profession. Vanessa is, let me make sure I pronounce this correctly. She is a neurophysiologist. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, you're actually saying it correctly. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So go ahead, Vanessa, and tell us about you and what you do.
Okay. Hi, guys. So yes, I'm a neurophysiologist. That's just like a fancy way of saying I monitor the nervous system for spine, brain surgeries. It sounds very complicated. It's not really that complicated. The machines do a lot of the work. So I guess it is a little complicated. But yeah, it's just that I monitor the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system for spine surgeries and brain surgeries. Obviously the surgeon does the most work in the case, but we're just there to literally check to see if he's close to a nerve, on a nerve, or far away from a nerve. Like that's really what they have us there. And especially for neck surgeries, obviously the biggest concern is like paralyzing a patient. So our job is to be there to make sure that even if something does happen, they get real time data. That's like the most important thing of that. Just in case you hit a nerve or anything. So let's say an accident happened. He finds out at that moment the accident happened. And there's actually ways to stop that. You can pump up the blood pressure, add steroids right away. And so that way it really can prevent the injury for becoming like actually paralyzed for a long term. So it's really important what we do. Actually, I'm not going to lie about that. It's really important. We're in the OR every single last day. I don't set foot in the office. I basically get to work, go change into scrubs, and go into the OR. And then I go meet the patient. When you come in, you place little, like, they call it electrodes, but they're small, like, I call them, what's the little needles that you place that when you like trying to like meditate? What is those needles called? Oh my gosh, you know what I'm talking about? Like when you go,
electro speakers.
No, like what do you do when you? Oh my God, what is it called when they place all those needles on you? Oh gosh, I'm blanking. Okay, well those
acupuncture.
Acupuncture needles. That's what I was trying to say. So we place like little acupuncture needles all over you, and that creates. Well, that's the electrodes. That's what electrode means. It's those little acupuncture needles that we place all over you. It's about average of 40 needles go inside of you. Yes, and the scalp. That's how we monitor the brain. Because you got to do the whole nervous system. So nervous system means brain and spine together. So we do that together. So we do scalp needles and then muscle needles. Monitor that. We just read some data. That's pretty much what we do. I don't really know how that's.
Oh, wow.
And then he just
now, is there a particular? Mm-hmm. Are there that you actually participate in, or are all the surgeries? What, like, can you explain to us the types of surgeries that you are involved in?
Okay. Surgeries that we always do are surgeries that are fusions, meaning they're placing artificial bone and stuff in the patient. So anytime they put implants in a patient, we're going to do, because that means they have to get rid of the entire bone there to put a fake bone in. And so we're always going to be there for that surgery, 100%. It's called fusion surgeries, all that we're going to do, because that means you're passing nerves, you're passing spinal cord, you're passing a lot of stuff to get there. So all fusions. What other surgeries do we do that I know it's mandatory? And neck, lumbar, and like lower backs and back is not even. Sometimes they can get away with not doing it, but since you're all the way up here, you can damage pretty much that level and below, so that we know it's arms and legs involved and everything. So cervical and any fusions. Scoliosis, obviously, that's the main thing that we do, which requires a lot. And then there is young people, usually it's juvenile patients for scoliosis.
Oh, wow. And how long do these surgeries usually take?
Oh, gosh, a long time. Minimum, the fastest surgery I've been doing, maybe 3 hours, but usually 6 hours per surgery, depending on the levels. It really depends if it's 1 level, 5 levels, 6 levels. I've done surgeries that's 14 hours. Some surgeries that's 2 hours. But I think 2 hours is probably the most minimum you can do.
We have to get into that. Now, what is taking place for 14 hours?
Well, they do. So when it's 14 hours, incision takes a long time. So you're doing a lot of levels, which means you got to cut, and then you have to open all these levels. And people don't realize how much or how large a back is until you're laying down there, opening up a back, removing muscle and like moving muscle out the way to get to the spinal cord. And it depends on how the size of the patient too. The bigger the patient, there's a lot of levels to get down deep. So that takes literally sometimes just getting to the spinal cord takes about an hour just to get to the spinal cord during all that. So that's an hour just getting to the spinal cord. Yeah. And people don't realize that it takes that long to just get from your back to because you can feel your bones. So you're like, it's right there. But it takes about an hour to do that. And then they start removing bone. Removing bone is hard. It takes a long time to remove bone.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a process.
Oh my gosh.
For sure.
Now, is there certain equipment, like when we see like on the emergency shows, ER, we're seeing like these different drills and the different tools that they're using. Are they actually using those type of drills to navigate themselves through our body, through the flesh and the layers of skin and muscle?
Surprisingly, yes. Yes. Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that. So honestly, in the room, I wish I had like some pictures. There's 2-layer tables full of just hardware. And when I mean hardware, like actual screws, drills, like they call them retractors, or like just metal things to just separate. What else? Something that's like scary that people would think. Like pliers, those are in there. It's serious equipment. And like the screws that come with a screwdriver, think that, but huge. And that's what's going inside of you. And then cages, they're called cages, but
wow.
It's just, it's a lot of equipment. It's what you see. So when they're drilling, that's exactly what they're doing. They're actually drilling. It's not as big as a drill, but it's a drill. And then when they want to stop some bleeding, they do a little cautery. So they burn a little bit of your thing to stop the bleeding. So there's like little burnt holes there a lot of times. So people don't know that. It's a lot. It is definitely a lot of equipment. It's definitely a lot of hardware. And it's pretty much what you see on TV. Not exactly everything, but for the most part it is. My biggest thing is I didn't know during surgery that it was going to be like 7-8 people in the room all the time. I just thought for some reason like just a surgeon and a nurse, and it's about 8 of us minimally in the room. Anesthesia.
So what is everyone doing at that time?
Anesthesia? I'm sorry? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, anesthesia. Okay, so I was saying you have all those people in there. What are they actually doing?
So anesthesia's doing, mostly their function is getting patients sleep and staying asleep without waking up. So, and then they monitor breathing. They monitor breathing, heart rate, and oxygen levels. So that's what they do. So they're there. I'm doing monitoring the nerves. Surgeon's doing his job. His assistant is helping assist him. Then we have a scrub nurse, and her job is to do all the passing to the surgeon. So he's like down and he just passes. So that's her job. There's a circulating nurse, and her job is to get anything to the scrub nurse that she needs. And then you have another circulating nurse in there who's helping out, and then another scrub tech. So they have a scrub tech in there. And then you have a sales rep in the room, because surprisingly enough, all that stuff has a sales rep in the room showing the surgeon how to use their equipment. So they're selling the surgeon these equipment in the room. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Wait, that's wait a minute. You have a sales rep in an operating room? Wow.
Every single time.
That's new to me.
I never knew that either. Yes.
And
so
what are they actually doing?
So they're not allowed to touch the patient or do anything like that. So they're literally there because they know the ins and out of their equipment. The surgeon knows how to work their equipment, but the sales rep knows the ins and out of like, you can use this with this tool. If this doesn't work, you can use this, you can use that. So they're there just to, and then all the stuff like the surgeon might want a different size cage. And so they have all their equipment and say, oh, look in this box, I have it in here. And they open up that box to give them equipment. And so
it's also an in-life professional development for the tools also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very complicated, a surgery. You think that it's just like one wham bam. And
one, have the surgery, slice them open, take out the guts and pinch them back, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot more. They sized everything, and the sales rep is in the room, and everyone is always surprised when I tell them that. I'm like, there's always a sales rep. And they're like, a sales rep in the room? Like, and it's like, yeah. And they're knowledgeable and everything, and they know their equipment more than anybody else knows it. So it's actually very helpful for them to be in the room. It's really essential to be in the room.
Okay. Wow. Well, I have a few questions that I want to ask you. Okay. First question is, can you describe the process in becoming a neurophysiologist?
Okay, sure. So it requires a bachelor's degree in any applied science field. So it could be chemistry, biology, which is what my degree is in. And sorry, I don't know if you can hear that train, sorry. And so any science degree, they obviously want biology majors more just because chemistry lies in more chemical, but it's still just a biology degree in science, any BS degree. And then from that you apply. I got it because I did an EMT program too first. So they liked that I had like some experience in like the ER and like just emergency medicine there. And then once you do that and you get the job, there's additional training. So now it's 6 months following and shadowing and training with a neurophysiologist. And then on top of that, it's school training. So you're back at school again for 3 weeks. You get sent away for 3 weeks. And it's testing, it's going over all anatomy again. You're learning your muscles group, you're learning bones, you're learning, now you're really diving deep in the nervous system. Like in biology majors, you learn about nervous system and central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. But this, you learn the ins and out now. So now they're teaching you about this nerve actually does this. It makes the hand go like this. This nerve controls this. So you go into all of that, and that's a 3-week training program. You come back, do more months of training on the job with someone, and then you go back again for 2 more weeks, and then do another school training where then if you pass that test, you get to come back and then maybe work again for about, I think it took me about 8 months to be signed off on my stuff. So about 8 months training on job you can start being by yourself. And then but then there's still continuously school you have to do to get to the next step. Like then you have to do some more training to do like a brain, you do lump or even, so its first step is you do training to be just doing lower back surgeries. Then it's training to do cervical, like procedures. And then after that is then brain procedures. So it's a lot of training. So about 4 years it takes to get signed off on everything. That's the average. Yeah, 4 years.
So in 4 years, you are able to monitor the entire body during during surgery.
Yes, you're monitoring. So in 4 years, you should be able to do awake cranies. So awake cranies are like the hardest thing that we monitor, where the patient's actually awake, having brain surgery. Like awake, talking, able to speak. So that's the most complicated surgery we do.
Why would someone want to be awake during brain surgery? Isn't it painful?
So it's actually crucial for this type of, because it's a tumor surgery. It's always usually a tumor. And the tumor is usually on a nerve that's connected to like language or speech. And so the surgeon needs the patient to be able to talk during that to see if he's on that speech nerve so that you don't wake up without having speech or language. So like it's the most complicated. They say it's easy. I have not done awake cranies. I've seen them. We've watched videos of them. And then I actually set in and shadowed one. So it's so many complicated things. You show a patient a picture of a cat and just say, what is this? And sometimes they can say cat, or sometimes they can spell it instead of saying it. And it's just like the dynamic of where that probe is that the surgeon's putting it on. So it's a difference in your brain to process cat word and actual picture of a cat. It's two different things that's going on in your brain. And so we need them to know both. Can you spell cat? Can you say cat? And depending on where his probe is, we know where it's at. And so the surgeon uses that, and they need to, because then they can damage one or the other. So 4 years.
Oh, wow. Oh my God. Whoa,
it's one of the most
that's interesting.
surgeries.
I'm learning so much. Yes. Those of you, our viewers, please feel free to ask any questions. Please type in your questions. Thank you for joining, and please share. Another question, describe the daily duties in your job. Like, what's your daily routine?
Okay. So long hours and early hours. 6:30 starts usually every day. And then daily routine is literally getting to hospital, changing into scrubs, hospital appointed scrubs. There's like, you can't bring in any other scrubs. It's an OR. Getting head to toe covered. So it's cap, mask, but a surgical mask from regular mask everyone has to wear. So we did surgical mask, cap, shoe coverings, scrubs. Your arms have to be covered too. So we have jackets for that too. So it's like no body part is showing, and nothing that's not body part is showing. So like literally eyes are the only thing that you can see of anybody in the OR. Everything else is covered. And then you get there around 6:30, you set up, we actually have equipment, so we use laptops and machines. So the machines are the ones that develop the waveforms for us. So that's how I read it. So I set up the machines, set up my set, go talk to the patient, get some, symptoms and stuff like that from the patient. And then when the patient gets in the room, they fall asleep. So I'm not placing these acupuncture needles when they're awake. So there's no pain for me. They fall asleep. I place all these 40 needles inside of them. And then I start monitoring right away. I start monitoring before the surgeon even makes incision, because I want to see what their baseline data looks like. And so it's just waveforms. We got one set that's an active waveform that just never stops having waves. And then we have another set that does traces every 1 to 2 minutes. And they read for different things. The one that never stops running is like real time. That one's real time, but it's 1 or 2 minutes. And it has different function of why it's 1 or 2 minutes as opposed to live. So I get that data started. And then from there, we go to different things. Like if a surgeon wants motors, I run that. And that means I activate a stim that makes the patient jerk from head to toe. And I don't mean figuratively, I mean literally, like they jerk. Head, arms, feet, leg. And I just send a shock, and that just sends a shock down from scalp. It sends a shock. And if I can't get a signal of reading it, meaning I can see that there's an issue with their motor function. And that's all I'm testing, is just motor function. So I do that. It's a little frightening when you first see it, because you're like, oh my God, you're gonna hurt the patient. Their neck just jerked, their back just jerked, like whole patient just moved. It's better for them. So I do that, and then we also do a lot of testing on. We give the surgeon a probe, or like a little probe, and they move it around an area, and just ask us, do we see something? Do we not? and we can tell by numbers how close that is to a nerve. And just by how big the waveform is and how fast the waveform's there. And so when we do that, we give them a number out and they can know if they're close to a nerve, not a nerve. And then the whole case, I just monitor the waveforms. I mean, and then we have issues all the time. It's a lot of different things that people don't. Like in a lumbar situation, a lot of surgeons are not too concerned about like paralyzing the hands or the arms, just the way how a body is functioning with nerves, that you're not really going to paralyze it. It's not impossible, but it's just not probable. And so my job is to just not monitor that for you're laying like this, and you can actually cause damage to this brachial plexus. And it's happened a lot. So we monitor that for that. And when our signals go down, which is very often, you just have to, they literally just move the patient's arm and during surgery. So it's so many things that's like, I'm here for the, not just for the actual paralyzed. People think it's just like, oh, it's just paralyzed. No, I'm here to, you can cause damage in other ways, just positioning of a patient. So I do that a lot. So I hope that answered.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. Okay. Another question I have for you. What do you wish you had known prior to becoming a neurophysiologist that would have been a great support in your career?
I think the main thing is I wish I'd have known how it worked every day, like the day to day. I wish I would have like been able to shadow, which is probably not possible since it is the OR and it's kind of a lot to get credentialed in there. But just shadowing, I really like that more, just to see like, because it's an aspect of not just knowing anatomy and physiology, but then it's a whole aspect of learning equipment and waveforms. And, you know, I had to learn all of that in the hardware side and or just even learning about like sterile field. That was one of the challenges, like getting yelled at in the OR is always great. And just kind of knowing how OR works in general, like maybe even seeing it one time. And just realizing like, oh my God, this is really real. This is sterile. Don't touch. Don't be close. It's not a joke. This is it just kind of how surgeries go about. Like I never even, like, it was just in there. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, there's anesthesia and this works. And it's like, so I just wish I had time to shadow that. Which I think they should actually offer more, a little more shadowing.
You get yelled at a lot in the OR. You get yelled at a lot by the doctors?
Oh, that's normal. If you're not getting yelled at a surgeon, you're not doing your job, as they say.
Okay, cool. Final question. What experience has most changed medicine?
Sorry, you had froze a little bit. So this was my quote earlier, so I was saying here now is that what I don't see, and I can just only speak for the hospitals I've been to, and I go to a lot of different hospitals, and then I'm only in the OR, so I can't, and then pre-op too, I'm in both. But I don't see a lot of, I was gonna say people of color, but that's not true because there is a lot of Asians, there is a lot of Indian, but there's not a lot of Black. And even in the company that I work for, even in that, I think it's about 3 of us total. And in the OR, I honestly can't tell you if I even know a Black nurse, and that's pretty sad. I do know a couple. There is a couple male Black surgeons, but as far as, and that's about it.
Okay.
Like there's, especially Black women, there's very, very few. I don't even know one. And I go to at least 10 hospitals. And then when you're on call, you get to go to so many. And I rarely, like in the city, there's a little bit more. Obviously the suburbs have less, but I mean, the numbers are just, it's just really, I mean, very, very low. And that's like something that I want to be the change that I said earlier. I mean, it's just
right.
Dramatic. There's Hispanics too. There's not any of those. Black and Hispanics in the STEM. That's what I want to see more. It's 3 of us in the entire company, and that's just not enough. And it goes into more issues of like, our patients are Black, our patients are that, we have diverse patients, and staffing is just, it's not there. And that's one big thing that I would like to change. I'm here in this thing. I want to reach out. I think I should do more and like maybe giving back or showing, or having some interest or trying to do something to bring STEM into the inner city, as they would say. But that's one of my goals. And because I see it and I know it's not, and I know what is projected on TV, it's not in real life. We're not graduating nurses. We're not graduating doctors. We're not graduating even OR staff. If you do see Blacks in the OR, it is the cleaning crew, it's the moving help, and that's about it. And that's what I see. When they say, hey, we need moving help to room 11, the patient needs, we need to help move, then we see Blacks, and they're the moving helper and the cleaning crew. And I think we can up that. We can be the nurses. We can be the doctors.
What do you think the issue is? Do we portray medicine as being too difficult?
I think so. I think we portray it as like, this is the hardest field to get into. It's so challenging. It's going to require so much work. Go something else. Go something easier. And plus, I just don't think that the schools are STEM based. There's not a lot of interest in it. There's not like, and two, there's main thing is that when I ask other people in my job, like, how did you hear about this job? How did you even know this job? And a lot of them say, I have family that work in the hospital and I knew about it. And so to me, that's another thing too. When you're in the communities, like even to myself, I only knew nurse and doctor. I didn't even know anything existed. I knew I wanted to be in the bio field. I've always wanted to be a biologist. I've always knew that, but I didn't know what to do. And I feel like that's a disadvantage. We don't have anybody going back into the school saying, here's so many careers. Get a degree in biology. You can be marine biologist. You can work in a lab. You can do forensic. You can do, it's a billion things you can do with a biology major. You can become a veterinarian. You can be a zoologist. You can work from plants to animals to humans. And there's so many things to become. A microbiologist. You can work with bacteria. Microbiologists
yes,
are the ones that did vaccines.
Because I knew, you're my niece, so I knew that my baby was going through college. But when you got the job and you said, oh, I'm a neurophysiologist, first off, I couldn't pronounce it. And it was, my first impression was, a neurophysiologist? Oh my, what? I had no clue as to what this job, the title of it for one, what the job entailed for two, and just knowing that, oh my gosh, this is an actual job that is necessary. We don't even understand how the vital role that your job plays in our lives when we are in the operating room, when we're having those procedures. No clue. And, in the Black and brown community, we have the habit of saying, oh, that's a white person's job.
Yeah.
And then, as you talked about with Secret, when you start to say, it becomes that. Yep. And we don't have any people of color in STEM fields.
We don't. I don't even. I said I can name some Black male surgeons, and that's all I can name. I don't know any Black nurse that I've met. And it's just, these are good, these are high paying jobs. Benefits are great. Jobs are high paying. Hours are not bad. These are middle class jobs. And that's the main thing that I want to stress too. Like, this is what we're lacking, because you enter into the job when I first entered it, and you automatically are now you're in middle class. Now you're in a different thing that you haven't been. And I think that might be an issue too. Knowing that if Black people get into these jobs, they're automatically now in a different class system. And that, that's a big difference to be from one class to another class just by getting a career. And, and I just think it's not pushed. It's not pushed. It's not talked about. It's not like, oh, let's, or even present it in a way that said, you don't want to be a doctor and you don't want to be a nurse. Oh, you can be X, Y, and Z. There's a billion things you can be. If you don't want to do that, you can be a neurophysiologist. You can be anesthesiologist. You could be a CRNA. That's like a little bit less grade of anesthesiologist making, just tons of money. And you still pharmacy. It's just nothing. It's just so many aspects, and everybody has a role that's not going anywhere. My field's not going anywhere. It's always going to be spine surgeons. People are going to have brain surgeries, and it's always going to be a need for having someone there giving you feedback on where you are in a nerve. It's very important. So these are job security jobs, and important, and they're not going anywhere in a field that we know medicine is never going to go anywhere. It can't be an easier field than medicine. People are going to always be at something's going to be a need for it. And it's just not there. And I don't really know how to bring that to the community.
Well, I'm going to hold you accountable to bringing that information back to our communities so that we can have more of our Black and brown, because you are a product of CPS.
Yeah.
You graduated elementary and high school from CPS. Lane Tech, Washington Irving Elementary School. So this is something that we definitely have to continue to forge toward, and we have to continue to fight for this because it is so important for representation, as you said, we're the patients.
Yeah.
But we're not the staff. And that's something that we definitely we have to continue to fight for.
Yeah. And it's gonna start.
We're excited about having a Black vice president. There are other fields that we have to definitely fight for to have our voices heard and be a representation in those fields.
Definitely. And it's got to start in grammar school, in elementary school, and that's where it has to start. It is a culture shock to be getting to the hospital, but I shouldn't have been as culture shocked as I should have been, since throughout my entire years of being in college, there was probably another one Black person in my classes. And so that should have put some trigger in my mind, like there's not even Black people in my classes. Since I'm taking all biology classes, there's no Black people in these classes. Now I'm in the upper level, I'm senior level biology. There's no Black people here. And I just assumed, okay, my college is not that Black. So maybe it's that. And then I got into the real world. I'm like, oh no, this is probably in every school, in every bio classes. It's just the same amount of how little we are. So it has to be there. Because if you're not in college, you're not taking classes, there's no way you can get into the job. You're not going to get there without a degree in biology or a degree in chemistry or a degree in science. So we're just not taking science majors. If you have any programs, I'd love to talk and bring STEM to schools. Let me know.
Oh, definitely. This conversation is being streamed through my CTU page, so we're definitely gonna have some hits, and we're gonna have to do something. Have to start some type of program. Gonna have to talk with the alderman, the congressman, and we're just gonna have to, start the change, because this is disappointing that we are not represented in the STEM fields. We're not.
No. I mean, not even close. Way less than we thought. And it's a little saddening. It's a little disappointing. You hate to feel like every time I'm in a room, it's just me. Always, just my type. I'm like, oh, every time, every surgery for all these symptoms. It's been years now, and it's still that. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, of course, if you're maybe on the south side of Chicago, their hospitals might have obviously maybe more staff as Black, but I don't know what the ratio is. Probably not that still dramatic. I doubt it. Yeah, I will be open to anything to help children get into the STEM, get excited about it, fall in love with it like I did when I was little.
Yes, definitely. You're the reason for Bobby falling in love with medicine and
yeah, you have to. It's
following in math and science.
Thing.
Yes.
Learning what the human body does. It's a crazy machine there. Nutritionist. Oh my God, there's so many things you can be.
Yes, definitely nutrition. That is so important. Definitely becoming a nutrition. Yes, that's another
all STEM.
A career in our STEM field.
Yeah, things that we don't even realize, and that's still having to go through STEM courses to learn that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to use our Black girl magic to promote the STEM fields in our communities. So we are now coming to an end of our conversation on SafeSpace. I want to thank you, Vanessa, for coming on and telling us your career in neurophysiology and sharing with us a day in the life of a neurophysiologist. I have learned so much. I'm sure our viewers have also learned a lot of information on neurophysiology. Thank you so much. And this will not be the last time that you will be a guest on SafeSpace. I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. Please share. This is another week of conversations on SafeSpace. Take a moment and shine your light in the dark. Thank you. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you.